Hey, everybody, welcome back to another daily drop here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI publisher Andrew Jones, and the topic today, North Carolina Tar Heels football. The season is not far out, guys. We are in July. The Tar Heels open up in August 29th at Minnesota. Practice starts July 29th. ACC kickoff is just here toward the end of the month. The Carolinas Day is July 25th, so we're almost in it. So we're going to talk a lot of football. More as we get closer, more Carolina football talk. And obviously, we'll have all of your coverage during fall camp of the Tar Heels. We're going to be doing drops pretty much every day throughout fall camp about football, a lot of basketball stuff in there as well, because you know what? Basketball's not that far off either. Okay, the topic here is very simple. I narrowed it down to this. People have picked apart North Carolina's schedule, and a lot of predictions are starting to come out, either in the print magazines on the shelves at local stores, or all of the various websites have done a lot of their predictions. This is the month where the media does their predictions, but I think with North Carolina, there's sort of a wide range. I know Jacob did an expectation drop a couple of weeks ago that was really good, where, like, guys, the range here is like 4 wins to 9 wins. And I think that that's fair because of the question marks. One, at quarterback, we don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be. I suspect it will be Max Johnson because experience will win out. We don't know about the offensive line. Mac Brown says it's going to be outstanding, or not outstanding, but better than the last few years. Well, if it is, that's good. That gives Carolina a shot. He also thinks the defense will be a lot better. And we're going to have a drop coming up here about Jeff Collins and his background and track record and resume as a defensive coordinator as opposed to a head coach, and why the two really don't intersect at all. People should view him based on what he did as a DC. Okay, they should be better defensively. If they're as good as Max says on the offensive line, and Max Johnson is on the higher end of what he's been in the past, which is a guy who doesn't make turnovers, then the 3 games I'm going to note here, if the Tar Heels win, could mean a pretty big season for Carolina football. So I had to preface this instead of just diving into the games. These are all winnable games, but they're also losable games. And there are more than 3 that are winnable and losable. Quite frankly, other than at Florida State, which, yeah, right now on paper, I wouldn't give Carolina a chance to win. Other than at Florida State and a few home games, every game's kind of a toss-up. Just some lean a little bit more toward Carolina, some lean a little bit more toward the opponent, or most, as in these 3, I think, sit right in the middle. All right, let's do 3 games. The difference between Carolina having an season and a really good season. Before we get to those 3 games, very quick reminder, for just $8.33 a month, you can be a Tar Heel Insider too, and our community. One of the things we've learned, and I learned a lot here recently, we had a Rivals Publishers Conference in Florida at the end of June, and a big draw for people are message boards. The really good sites in our network, the very successful sites, have outstanding message boards. We have a very good message board. I want it to get better. And the way it will get better is if smart people like you are on board hanging out. Consider it like an online coffee shop where you go hang out, or a bar, if you will. You go hang out with a bunch of your buddies who know what they're talking about. There's always that guy that thinks he knows stuff, but it's just way off. And, he doesn't really read the paper, but that dates myself. The guy who doesn't know a whole lot of stuff, but acts like he does. You don't get that on premium message boards. So come hang out with people like you. And it's for the price of not even a drive-through meal at a fast food restaurant. Anyway, so the Florida State game, we're going to mark that as a loss. So that brings us down to 11 games. I think the guaranteed wins are Charlotte, North Carolina Central, and I'm going to throw JMU in there. I know it may sound risky, but there's a new coach. JMU has been really fortunate. Like, they lose a coach and they get a new one in there, and he's fantastic too. At some point, it's not going to work. And Carolina's at home. It has its talent as opposed to JMU's talent. Tar Heels should win that game. So that's 4 games knocked out. That leaves us with 8. 5 of those 8, well, I'm going to do the other 3 first. I think it'll lay out a little bit better. So what are those 3 games that I think are pivotal in determining whether or not Carolina has a big season or a so-so season? First game, opener, August 29th at Minnesota. Too many people are saying Carolina should breeze through the non-conference schedule. I don't buy that, man. Minnesota is not an easy game. I know that Minnesota hasn't exactly been playing in major bowl games in this century, but it's not a terrible program. PJ Fleck's a good coach. They are a tough team to play at home. That place will be a hornet's nest. Thursday night, open the season, national network TV on Fox, an opportunity to get off to a good start. I think there might be some pressure on PJ to win that game. And I think North Carolina's going to get everything Minnesota has. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota's favored in that game. A couple points, something like that. That's a game that if Carolina wins, it's a road win at a Big Ten team. And it's a win over a Power 4 team. And it gets Tar Heels off to a 1-0 start with a few more winnable games before entering league play. So a 4-0 start is very, very realistic, but it can't happen unless the Tar Heels win at Minnesota. It's going to be a tough game. No doubt about it. But let's say Carolina wins that game. That's huge. Now let's go toward the end of the season. I think at Wake Forest is on this list. We don't really know what to make of Wake Forest just yet. I would never say a Dave Clawson team is going to be terrible because he's such a good coach. But it looks to me like the program is starting to kind of tail off a little bit like it did in the latter part of the Jim Grobe era. Nevertheless, Wake at home against Carolina, would you put a C note on the Tar Heels right now to win that game? I wouldn't. We'll have to wait and see how the season plays out. But without knowing what the first 9 weeks look like, I would say this is one of those games. This is one of those games that Tar Heels need to win to have a great season. The other one is November 30th at home against NC State. First of all, Carolina's just got to beat NC State. Period. Lost 3 in a row to the Wolfpack. Got to beat NC State. So regardless of what the record is going to that game, got to beat NC State, especially at home. Also, State should be pretty good this year, as State usually is under Dave Doeren. So again, it's an opportunity to get a good win that could be a difference-making kind of victory. If Carolina wins at Minnesota, wins at Wake, beats State at home, takes care of those 3 that I noted, Charlotte, Central, and JMU, that puts the Tar Heels at 6 wins. Lose to FSU, okay, 6-1. 5 others to play. What are those 5? At Duke, Pitt at home, Georgia Tech at home, at UVA, and at BC. Not stalwarts, but history says, who knows? Is Duke due to beat Carolina? They got a new coach. Max 5-0 against Duke since coming back. What about Pitt? Pitt's going to be better than it was last year. Narduzzi teams are not as bad as what last year's team was. There'll be more stability at quarterback. Pitt's going to be better. Georgia Tech at home. Who would pick Carolina to beat Georgia Tech right now, given the last few years? At UVA, Carolina lost at home to UVA last year, sort of derailing the season. Now, I don't think the Wahoos are going to be any good, so Carolina should go up there and win that game, but it's still one of those limbo games. And then at BC, again, BC new coach. I think BC's okay going up there in November. Who knows what the weather's going to be like? So if Carolina is 6-1 in those other 7 games, and you look at these 5 right here, if they go 3-2, win at Duke, beat Georgia Tech, win at UVA, lose at home to Pitt, and lose at BC, 3-2 means a 9-3 season. I think most Carolina fans right now would be satisfied in the end with a 9-3 season, especially if you beat NC State. And for the people who are uncertain about Mac, I think 9-3 would quiet some of the criticism, especially if you beat NC State. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what your 3 key games are. I know there are more than 3, but let's narrow it down to 3. I've got at Minnesota, at Wake, home against State. Let me know what you guys have, either on Facebook, on our page on Facebook. Let me know on Twitter, or let me know on our message boards. And go to those. Go sign up, guys. Just $8.33 a month. Not to mention, you're going to get all this information about recruiting and stuff that we never make public. And you're going to get observation analysis, but it's the message board. Go hang out. We got some great posters. We have regular daily dialogue. You want to be a part of that. And there, you can also let us know what your 3 games are as well. I'm AJ, and I appreciate you stopping by.